G'day and welcome to another edition of the RDFNL Netball Show. Looking back on last week and looking ahead to Interleague weekend. My name's Yeendy. I'm joined by Tara Murray. Thanks for joining us again this week.
Thanks for having me.
Certainly had a few interesting games over the weekend in A grade RDFNL Netball.
It is, but I got 5 out of 5, so I thought it sort of went how I thought it would. So yeah, good weekend. But and we saw a couple of interesting matches and we're starting to get an indication of where teams sit now.
Yeah, definitely right. You're sitting on top of the ladder in the tipping, and I'm sitting comfortably down the bottom. I've got no idea what I'm talking about. Just come away with a lazy 2. So I need to lift my game. But I tried to tip a few upsets, and unfortunately for my tipping, it didn't go that way. But we'll get the first game under the belt because Rupert's Wood defeated Wood and Heskett by a forfeit. So Rupert's Wood will be happy with the 4 points there, and I guess Wood and Heskett, they'll be looking to bounce back when they get the opportunity.
It is. I think both sides would have rather take to the court and get that experience of building these sides together. Obviously, Wood End's a pretty young side, so all court time together is valuable for them. And the Sharks, they're still gelling, so would have been good for them. But I don't think the netballers would have been complaining about not playing in those conditions on Saturday.
Particularly over at the GGO at Wood End, it's very, very, very cold. It's a different world over there. Big game between Riddle and Broadford. The Bombers, they're starting to assert themselves on the competition.
It is. It's sort of what we're starting to expect. Looking at their best was Beck Caldwell and Lauren Close. They didn't have the goal in figure, so I'm not sure how many Beck shot, but she had another good game. So they're starting to exert that dominance with their experienced players really standing up and their younger players following along. So that's what you sort of expected this season. I thought they would rise up into the top 6, and they're not disappointing.
Yeah, Broadford, look, they played hard. At the end of the day, it's probably one of their best team performances just in a few weeks while they try and get out of that form slump. But no doubt that the week's break will come at a really good time for them.
It is. I think we're starting to see probably Broadford will be in that lower part of the ladder. And that's for them.
They're gelling really well. It's going to take time.
Gel, and that's what the likes of Natalie Fletcher and Jess Henrichsen were their best on the weekend. So they're starting to gel. It's a brand new combination. So it is going to take time, and probably under a new coach as well for a lot of these girls. So it was going to take time, but they've got an A-grade side, and they're starting to build, and they're not being completely bullied out of games. And that's what you wanted to see for a side coming back into the competition.
One of the matches of the round, we had Macedon too strong for Diggers Rest by 8 goals and a pretty good encounter there. I was hoping with Diggers Rest form that this might be the game where they could have caused the upset. It probably wouldn't have been an upset because they've been pretty good this year. It
is. Look, first half it looked like you were on the money. Speaking with Macedon coach Kira Stewart, she said they were horrible in the first half.
Yep.
But
that's some good pressure there from Diggers.
It was, and she said they made a few changes and ended up they ran away with it in the end. So for them, it's about getting the wins. They haven't been pretty for the wins for the Cats, but they're still getting the wins every week. The Boroughs have sort of got an indication of probably where they sit. They started the season on fire. The last 2 weeks they've lost to Rupert's Wood and Macedon, who I rate as two very, very good sides. So for them, it's about, they do have a pretty new combination. They're still gelling, but I think they're going to build as the season goes along. I still think they're going to make finals, but obviously they've come up against two of the better sides in the competition.
Yeah, it would have been handy for them if they had have secured maybe a win over Rupo or Macedon. That would have made a really good impression on the competition. And again, we'll speak about it throughout the year. Just their improvement is quite impressive under Pam Strong, and we couldn't talk about that highly enough, which is great. Another team that is rapidly improving. We're starting to see some really good work. Wallen taking down Rockbank. Wallen have been outstanding. And I guess Rockbank are one of the good improvers of the competition as well.
It is. Rockbank's probably been a little bit up and down, but we've seen them get wins, which they haven't got in previous seasons. So it was probably a good indication for both these sides where they sit. Wallen's been competitive in every single match, and they had a quite convincing win here. Probably the standout for them was Chloe Melmeisters, who we've previously seen with Riddle in their goal in circle across the grades. And I think this is probably her breakout game for Wallen. She shot 43 goals from 52 attempts and really dominated that game, and it's probably what people have been wanting to see for her. She's been around the edges of the A-grade comp. I know she's played a little bit with Riddle, but her first really breakout game for the Magpies.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic for her to get that confidence, particularly with a strong mid-court around her as well. And but we can't discredit Rockbank's effort as well. They played some pretty good football. We know, netball, but where they are at the moment, they're probably about 12 months away from really knocking on the door of the finals.
Yeah, and look, if they got into finals this year, they'd be thrilled, but they know where they sit, so they're not expecting to be a top two side this season. So they're building, they're starting to get their wins, and they're starting to get a list together, which will be really competitive for years to come.
Game that was probably a little bit one-sided, but didn't really expect it. Romsey almost sort of comfortably counting for Melton Centrals.
It was. I was speaking to someone from Centrals, and they said Romsey was quite dominant. They defensively, they were really, really good. Centrals, same old issue. They shot poorly. I think they shot under 50%. around the 50% for the game, and any level of netball, you're going to struggle to win games if you shoot in that poorly. So for Romsey, though, they're building, and you've got a lot of those some players who have come up from B grade, and they're starting to really settle into that A grade side and that A grade level. So I did tip Romsey, despite the fact the two sides did have a draw earlier in the season, but I think Romsey is really starting to build.
It almost seems like Romsey, they've had that slow start, but their back half of the season is just going to be quite impressive.
Well, even the slow start, they haven't played their round 1 match against Diggers Rest, and round 2 they were in front against Rupert's Wood. So they have played a lot of those top sides as well, and obviously a draw a couple of weeks ago was, I think, a good result for Centrals, when Centrals probably should have got the win, and then this time they've got the win. So they're racking up those wins and showing that they're still a side to probably finish in that top 6.
Now we've got some exciting games capping up this weekend as we turn our attention to Interleague, the Interleague campaign over against Central Highlands Netball Association. We've got the Interleague teams ready to go, and Kiara Stewart will be again leading the way as coach.
It is. I think the last couple of years they've taken the approach of coach of the year from the previous year takes on the Interleague side, and she was named coach of the year for the last 2 years. So she's taken on that role again, and there's a lot of players who were part of the team of the year as well. I think that's where they start the basis of looking at this team. There is a number of that squad who have left, and a few who aren't playing. But the squad this year is a real mixture. They've got two past Ryan medalists. They've got a quite experienced group as well, and then they've got a few new players who are new to the competition who have stepped up and are players from a range of different sides.
One of the players that I'm so excited to see on that list from Rockbank, and she's done a magnificent job this year, Rebecca Hicks. Great to see her in there, and for a big pat on the back for all the hard work she's been doing this year.
It is, and we haven't seen a Rockbank player among the Interleague squad for probably a long time, so it is really good. Rebecca is a holding goaler who provides a good target for every team she plays in, and she's very accurate as well. So you'll have her probably in the goal circle, and then she'll have a running goal attack with her, and it's exciting to see someone from a different side make the Interleague team. And
she'll be working alongside an opponent she had back in round 1. Well, not so much, but in the goal attack situation, we've got a past Ryan medalist from last year. We've got Beck Moorabool.
Yeah, we've got Beck Moorabool and we've got Chloe Wilson.
Oh, how good's that? What a combination.
You've got your 3 goalers, and Chloe Wilson has played a fair bit of goal shooter as well. So you've got the mix there. As you mentioned, Beck Moorabool, not only a Ryan medalist last year.
I think it was your 3-time.
3 times. She's the only 3-time Ryan medalist in the competition. So you've got a lot of experience there as well. I think Chloe played Interleague last year, and Beck is an experienced campaigner as well. So you've got a mix of new players and experience in that shooting circle.
Yeah, out of all the shooters that I've probably seen across the competition, Chloe's probably the one I've enjoyed most. I've watched her a fair bit at Sovereigns in Division 1, and I think just her shooting action just naturally draws a lot of accuracy. I'm really impressed with how she goes about business.
Yeah, and I think she's further developed since we've seen her. She's been in the competition. This is now her 3rd year. She stepped up to Ballarat Sovereigns last year as well, and still part of that, and played a few championship games as well. So she's really taken her game to that next level, and it's good to see players like that at this level.
How are we seeing the mid-court unfold?
Mid-court, a lot of Macedon players in the mid-court. So obviously that, a lot of Macedon. So you've got a couple of new players to the competition. You've got Caitlin Alfredo. You've got Carly DeBono, who did play a little bit last year for Macedon. And then you've got Chelsea Kemp as well, who's been around the comp for a couple of years. I know Chelsea's previously played Northern Football League Interleague. So you've got 3 players there who play a lot together. And you look, if you've got Chloe Wilson in the shooting half, you've got that experience of those combinations that can really click. So that's what you've got. And probably Annika Shearer is going to, I think, will fit into that mid-court, because you've got a number of other defenders. She can play goal defence, but she can also play a wing defence and a centre. So expect her to step into that mid-court with the other defenders they've got on the court. And
probably in the context of team balance as well, Annika's one of the genuine workhorses in the team. That she's one of those players that every coach wants to have, where they can be assigned different roles and they continue to work really hard. She just throws herself at every contest.
Exactly, and I think it adds a little bit of flexibility to this side. And being Interleague, you need players who can play different positions, because obviously a lot of these players haven't played together, they haven't trained together, but you need players who can switch up into positions.
We've got some star players in the back court holding down the defence. So who have we got there?
We've got a couple of the defenders who were part of the team of the year last year. You've got Katie Clark and you've got Janelle Tate or Janelle Birch.
Yep.
So two Macedon defenders there again, and you've got another former Ryan medalist in Lauren Close stepping into the defensive end. So Lauren, as we've seen, when she plays, is one of the best players in the competition. And then you've also add Janelle and Katie to that. It's a very experienced defensive lineup.
It's quite exciting to see what they've certainly got on offer. A lot of versatility there too, which is really important, particularly in the front court or in the attacking court and the back court as well. You can really mix things up a little bit, which is fantastic. And you could take one Ryan medalist out and put another quality shooter or quality defender in there. That's the beauty of it all.
Exactly, that's right. There's a lot of experience there, and a few of those younger players have come into the comp. So, look, I expect them to be very, very competitive. They had a good match last year where they got a very, very easy win after a disappointing game against Albert in the year before. So hopefully they can continue that and get a second straight win.
Shaping up to be very, very exciting as we gear up for Interleague weekend, and hopefully the girls can bring home a big win over Buninyong. Tara, thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to catching up with you next week as we look back on hopefully a big W and some looking ahead to some great games the following week.
Fantastic.